I've always found it fascinating because whenever I've had a death, it's like, this is like, this is weird. And I said to Mark, it's like, you know, because we went to it, we landed, we drove out here, we had lunch together, we talked. Like my niece was doing something, I think, Sunday, Monday, or something. You know, it's like, I said, you know, I mean, our friends came over last night. They brought the barbecue and they brought everything and they sat there. So that was nice. Like, I mean, you know, we're not going anywhere. We're not going
if there was something that you wanted, I'm happy to come to the house and do something that's into that feels like that. You know, but I understand that. It's one of the odd working challenges of things that I still like. I know generally and understand the Shabbos thing and the holiday thing and joy and all that, but there is a point in which you just start to wonder why not find some other way to make it work? Right. Shiva is a very specific term, right? You know, like that's right. They're getting the idea of me that's and the truth is actually most of the areas they won't let you anywhere near without signing first year, which I'm sure you must have had. But no, but there was like I remember was last year, right? But I think they do something which I assume they get on the ground and the first shovel. So they literally get on the ground going like this.
No, that I've seen.
Yeah, no, but once they have shovel, the truth is I'm really hard to do that because no matter how many times I explain the logic is basically that, you know, the whole filling and raising period is about obligation. And the obligation is that we do it ourselves and we have to show our utmost love. So that extends to all sorts of sort of No. It's my mistake. I'm gonna go write it down just to make sure. Okay, you're right there. Mostly, I mean, at this point, it's not really my MO. Like that's kind of,
Great. Air conditioner bubbling. Nice.
That's okay. I think I'm just gonna
Yeah, just leave it on lane. We'll do that. Alrighty. All right, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. Okay.
Someone's ready.
That's good. You know, this is tefillah too, right? All that talking, all that stuff I missed so much for so many years. This is all beautiful stuff happening. All right. We got another beautiful night here as well. Beautiful light coming in. Beautiful people in the seats. You can't ask for more than this. Cantor, how you feeling?
Pretty good.
Feeling pretty good. All righty. It sounds good. Well, that, I'll tell the sound technician, nice
Get him
pat
a
on the back.
raise.
Yeah, exactly. Believe it or not, it will get better. We have a new piece of technology I haven't even installed yet, but it's going to get even better, which is a great thing. All good things to be excited about. All right. Go write the candles or enough? Huh? Write the candles or enough? All right. Good Shabbos, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Hopefully you have a siddur, a prayer book in front of you. For any reason you don't, please let Shelly know. We'll be happy to bring one to you. And just a great, oh my goodness. This is one of the great things about the last few weeks, is seeing faces. And seeing faces in particular walk in the door for the first time. It's the only regret I have is realizing I should have had a camera set up just for that moment. But for me, I keep those memories in my head, right? I promise you, every one of those responses, every single one of you, and every single person that I've seen, people that know this place well, and people who are coming in for the first time, right? That energy is it's infectious. I appreciate it so much. So with all of that on my mind, right, all of the beautiful light that we are experiencing here, we're going to light and bless our Shabbat candles, and that blessing can be found on page 120, page 120. And again, if you don't have a prayer book in front of you, just please do let me know. And we're going to see how this works with our excellent air conditioning and how better cold than hot, people. Cold than hot. It's close. There you go. You gotta have faith. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shel Shabbat. Thank you, Rona. We got one amen. That's the amen is very important, people. When you say a bracha, the amen is very important. Okay, we're going to turn to page 130 as we begin Kabbalat Shabbat together at the very, very top of the page.
Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Naria letzor ishenu lekadma fanav betodah. Naria letzor ishenu bizmirot naria lo. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai.
We're now on page 131.
Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, B'tagel haaretz. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, B'tagel haaretz. Yiram hayam, yiram hayam, yiram hayam, melo. Yiram hayam, yiram Yiram Hayam, Yiram Hayam, Umeloi Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagel ha'aretz.
We'll turn now to page 132, or Zaru at the very bottom of the page.
Or Zarua, not Sadiq, U'yishrei lev simcha. Or Zarua, not Sadiq, U'yishrei lev simcha. Or Zarua, not Sadiq, U'yishrei lev simcha. U'yishrei lev simcha. Or Zarua, not Sadiq, U'yishrei lev simcha. U'yishrei lev simcha. Ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la ya la ya la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la la la.
We'll turn now to page 134, Zamru Ladonai.
Zamru Ladonai bechinor, bechinor vekol zimra, bechatzotzrot vekol shofar. Hari lifnei hamelech Adonai, Yiram hayam u'melo, tevel veyoshveva, neharot imcha uchaf yachad, harim yiraneinu, lifnei Adonai kiva, lishpot haaretz, lishpot tevel betzedek, ve'amim be'mesharim. Yiram hayam u'melo, tevel ve'yoshveva, neharot imcha uchaf yachad, harim yiraneinu.
We'll turn now to page 135, Romamu, the last Hebrew paragraph in the middle of the page.
Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'yishtachavu behar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'yishtachavu behar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'yishtachavu behar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'yishtachavu behar kodsho.
We'll turn now to Lecha Dodi on page 138. Again, page 138, very top of the page.
לך דודי לקראת כלה ירדה 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 פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה ירדה 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 פני שבת נקבלה שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד ישמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ושמו לתפארת ולתהילה לך דודי לקראת כלה ירדה 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 בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה ירדה 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 בני שבת נקבלה לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי היא מקור הברכה מראש מקדם משוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת כלה ירדה 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 בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה ירדה 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 בני שבת נקבלה Verse 3 מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה ומצאים מתוך אפיך רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה והוא יחמול עלי חמלה לך דודי לקראת כלה ירדה 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 בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה ירדה 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 בני שבת נקבלה תתנערי מעפר קומי לבשי בגדי תפארתכני על יד בן ישי בית הלחמי קרבה אל נפשי גאלה לך דודי לקראת כלה ירדה 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 בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה ירדה 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 בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה בני שבת נקבלה התעוררי התעוררי כי באורך ומאורי אורי אורי שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לא תבושי ולא תתקרמי מה תשתוכחי ומה תמי בך יחסו אני עמי ונבנתה הרעתי לה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה והיו למשי סוסי ורח כל מבלייך יסיס עלייך אלוהייך ימסוס חתן הכלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה ימין ושמאל תפרוצי ואת אדוני תריצי על יד בן פרצי ונשמחה ונגילה לחדולי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לחדולי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצולתו אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה יאי די יאי די יאי די 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 יאי די 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 יאי די 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 יאי די יאי די לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה.
I think for all that dancing, you should have stopped at the snack tray on the way home. Filled up for another round. But
Brought some for
beautiful.
us.
Good ruach, for sure. We'll turn now to page 140 as we conclude Kabbalat Shabbat.
Tzadik katamar hifra ke'erez balevanon yizkeh shetulim beveit Adonai b'chatzrot Eloheinu yafriku od yenuvun b'seiva d'sheinim v'rabbanim iyu lehakim ki yashar Adonai Tzuri Eloav latabo.
We'll now turn to page 144 for the Chatzi Kaddish. Yitkadal vehitkadash shemei rabba B'alma divrach urtei v'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon uvyomechon Uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael Bagala Ubizman kariv veimeru Amen Yehishmei rabba mevarach Le'alam li'almei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach V'yitbar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei dechudsha richu Leila min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbechata b'nechemata Tamiran be'alma ve'imeru. Amen. We now rise in body or in spirit for the Baruch Hu on page 146.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed.
Please be seated. We'll turn now to page 148. We'll read together in English at the very bottom of the page. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening.
Umavir yom mevi laila, umavdil ben yom uven laila, Adonai Tzevaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam vaed. Baruch atah Adonai, Amari v'aravi.
Amen. We'll turn now to page 150, and we'll read together in English at the bottom of the page. Everlasting love you offered your people Israel, by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel.
Ki hem chayenu leorech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam valayla, ve'ahavatcha al tasir mimenu leolamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Please join us on page 154. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, Adonai Elohechem Emet. We'll read together on the top of page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. We're now on page 158, Mi Chamocha, at the top of the page.
Adonai mi kamoch nehedar b'kodesh nora tehilot osefele nora tehilot osefele malchutecha ra'u banecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe uMiriam ze'eliyanu ve'amru ze'eliyanu ve'amru Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed V'ne'emar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov ugalo miyad chazak mimenu Baruch Atah Adonai Gal 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 Israel
We'll turn now to page 160, Hashkivenu, at the very top of the page.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu Tomreinu l'chaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu Shomreinu l'chaim Ushmor tziteinu Uvoeinu L'chaim u'l'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim.
Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Yerushalayim. Turn to page 162, Vishamar, at the top of the page.
Vishameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת שבת
Now invite us to rise in body or in spirit as we begin the Amidah together on page 164. From that point on, we'll continue silently. As always, please go at your own pace, and when you're finished, at the end, if you're still standing, you may be seated.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi yagid teilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Say shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Say shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Say shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Say shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen.
We'll turn now to page 371 to offer our Mishaberach, our healing prayer for this evening. We'll begin by thinking of those in our community who are needing a little bit of that extra loving prayer. Bensi Tepper, Allison Luckman, Malka Bat Chaya Sura, Michael Klinghoffer, Amy Cass, Warren Cass, Rivka Bat Rachel, Leah Bat Naomi, Gedalia Ben Sylvia, Lorraine Danis, David Dowling, Sylvia Devora, Bat Francis, Muriel Hirsch, Michelle Sawicki, Francis Kirschman, Shelley Newmark, Diane Axelrod, Gabriella Spicer, Barbara Kushner, David Kyle Klotman, Lorraine Davis, Devora Batsima, Rebecca Snyder, Jeffrey Miller, Shelley Lyman, Deborah Block-Kroll, Sylvia Orn, Karen Layton, Debbie Bookvar, Carol Javna, Lori Nisanoff, Rebecca Rubin, Deborah and John Fogarty, Kate Kessler, Hilda Mintz, John Mahoney, Kim Birnbaum, Moshe Ben Yosef, Moshe Jakobowitz, Ann Baker, David Ben Barzilai, Dr. Samuel Moskowitz, Tikva Bat Avram, Andrea Klausner, Jake Curie, Farah Sherwin, Barbara Schwab, Alan Zaretsky, Steve Roberts, Peter Cohn, Toby Spitz, and Gail Gambino. In addition to the names that I just read, we'll also invite those with us in the room tonight. If you have additional names to share, just make sure you raise a hand so I don't miss anybody. We'll join together with the cantor on page 371. Oh, sorry. On page 371, just in the middle of the page. We miss one more name. No, that's okay. Every name matters. Of course. Of course. Page 371, just in the middle of the page.
Source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
So I'm going to tell you from the beginning that at least the beginning part of my remarks tonight is entirely self-serving. Okay? Should be no different than the rest of my sermons, I suppose. It involves a certain amount of crowing about some people who are very close to me, but I promise, like our ancestors in the desert, we're going to weave our way towards the ultimate point of what I'm trying to speak about tonight. So this week, I had the privilege of being able to travel into the city and to participate in the 40th anniversary celebration of the Abraham Joshua Heschel School. Now, for some of you that live in the city, this may be a name that you're familiar with. For some that have nothing to do with that or never raised children in the city, may not have heard of the school. Hopefully you've heard of the rabbi. The school has a very special place in my heart, as many of you know, because it was founded by my father. So 40 years ago, when I was barely alive, barely breathing, this idea that he and a few of his contemporaries, a few of his closest friends had, which started from this. Suddenly on Monday night, 40 years later, was a room full of people. And not just any people, but a mixture of people, again, that I know very closely that became like family to me, and then a whole bunch of people I did not recognize. So at first, it creates a certain kind of weirdness or a discomfort, right? This is the school my father started. I literally grew up in this building. I should know every person in the room. And yet, right, most of the people in the room at this point, I actually don't recognize. Students, parents, faculty, teachers. So it was interesting, last night, as part of our tikkun, Rabbi Urbach taught a very famous teaching of the story of Moses, who goes sort of forward in time in a famous midrash into the Beit Midrash of Rabbi Akiva, and he doesn't recognize anything. He doesn't recognize the words, he doesn't recognize the people, he doesn't have any idea what a rabbi is, and he becomes despondent because he doesn't know it. And then God explains not to be concerned, because in the moment in which Rabbi Akiva is asked the question by one of his students, says, where does all this come from? Where does all this teaching come from that you're giving us? And he says, well, this is the Torah that was given on Mount Sinai to Moshe. So Moses feels comforted by the fact that even though he doesn't recognize everybody, he knows that the origin point is exactly what he remembers when God gave him the Torah. And so, not to become overly grand in comparing myself in some way to Moses or the school to the giving of the Torah, there are certain parallels and certain interesting sort of connections that have happened for me in the last week, and in celebrating the holiday of Shavuot, which for those that were with us this morning in Shul, we celebrated again the giving of the Ten Commandments, the giving of the Torah, and this sort of realization of what it means to dream of something that you can't yet vision, right? You can't imagine exactly what it's going to look like. So in the 40 years that the Heschel School has existed, it grew from my brother's first graduating class of 8 students to now hundreds of students every year. And in the course of 40 years, really thousands of students who have gone through the school and learned. The Heschel School, as it was conceived of, was something of a radical idea in its time, which is a pluralistic Jewish day school. In other words, Reform, conservative, Orthodox, non-affiliated, that somehow or another you'd be able to all gather in one building and learn what it is that we as Jews consider to be the most important of our sacred texts and the most important of our responsibilities to the world around us. But again, while we may look at that today in 2023 and say, okay, that seems like a perfectly reasonable idea, this is something that people will get behind and support, let me tell you, in the early days, it was the furthest thing from it. And as my father told these stories of the beginning points of trying to convince people to literally invest in an idea which to most people made zero sense at all, and especially if you saw a picture of what my father and his friends looked like in the 80s, to think that anybody would give them the seed money to buy a building, let alone to trust their children with, is something of a stretch of the imagination. And even more than that, right, again, a position in saying that the teachings of Rabbi Heschel, which primarily amongst his great rabbinic insights, were to drive us and draw our attention to our role as Jews in the world, to be bringers of light, to be solvers of problems, to be bringers of peace. Right, all of these concepts were at the very core of this idea at the very beginning, but a core idea that only existed in the minds of a handful of people. So the question is, how do you get from that moment of an idea, of a vision, to 40 years later, a room full of people of multiple generations of talking about a future that will go on certainly for another 40 years, if not longer. And that gap of time between 0 and 40 is quite significant, but one that we lose track of, especially as time goes by. Those little moments, those little stories. In the Torah right now, we are reading at really this exact moment a narrative that really fits with exactly what I was hearing on Monday night, and which you can imagine hits a little bit closer to home as we sit here in our beautiful renovated space. So our ancestors in the desert, at this point in the Torah, they are still in a vision space. God tells them where they're going. They all have an idea of what the end point is. But at this point in the Torah, they are wandering. They are in the desert. They are scared. They are oftentimes worried about where the next meal is going to come from. They don't know whether their enemies are going to attack them at any given moment. That vision of the land of Israel is as far away as the moon at this point. And yet, what do they spend their time doing in this parsha? What is the first word? What is the parsha called? Naso? The whole idea of the beginning of this is a census, is a taking account of who is there. And the Hebrew tells us Ki tisa et rosh, that idea of raising up the heads of the people, is the way in which we count each other. Okay, there's lots of different words in Hebrew for counting, many of them, but the Torah doesn't use those words. It uses a euphemistic phrase, but one that carries great wisdom and great meaning. In the end, to build anything, whether it's a building, a people, a nation, to do anything of substance, you have to look into the eyes of the people that you are asking to go along with you on this journey. You have to look into each one of their eyes and make them believe what you believe, to see the vision that you see, even when everything around you tells you that vision is just that. It's a dream. But our people is full of a history of not giving up on dreams, of seeing the impossible and making it real, of committing ourselves in the deepest possible way to the sacred building of which we are really all a part. The school obviously is very meaningful to me on a personal level and to the thousands of families that have been affected by it. But my real thought on Monday night, beyond my, pride for my father and the joy of seeing all these people celebrating, it brought me right back here. It brought me right back into this space, and to the eyes of each one of you and the people watching at home, to everyone who helped to create this beautiful space that we sit in tonight. It began with vision. It began with a dream. It began with something that seemed so far-fetched that it might never actually happen. As I'm looking at my buddy Neil over there, thinking about how many conversations we had, as I look at Ambassador and Mrs. Lauder in the back, being incognito, I'm sorry I have to recognize you, but, right, to be able to imagine 9 years ago when I walked in the door that we would be sitting in this space, that we would be hearing the voices that we heard tonight, that all of the things that I visioned for us together in the years to come, all of these things, again, to the outside observer would have seemed not just fantasy, they would have seemed dangerous fantasy, would have called us crazy. In fact, many people called my father exactly that. Many people. But in the end, the believers believed. Okay? In the end, the visionaries visioned, the dreamers dreamed, and the builders built. And just as they built in the city in 40 years, what this congregation has built in 120, what are we at now? 5 or 6? And what we are going to, Neil, whatever you say, and what we are going to build together in the next 120-something odd years. So that when generations beyond, who will probably not remember any of us necessarily, but they will sit in this space, they will sing the songs, they will pray the prayers, and they will study the Torah. And in each of these moments will create a link in a chain, as I said, goes back to our very beginnings, but just as importantly, connects us to a future that none of us can even conceive of yet. But none of it happens without all of you. None of it happens without all of the ones that are watching at home as well. And none of it happens, quite frankly, and I said this morning as we were observing Isker, without the names on these boards, right? And the countless other names that probably aren't on them, but helped to build and sustain this community. So it's important for us to realize that while every week that passes, it becomes more normal, right? We sit in this space and it starts to feel like, just a regular Shabbat as you walk in. That may be the case, but I ask of you, hold on to a little bit of that power, a little bit of that joy, a little bit of that something special that I think all of us have felt walking in that door for the first time. Remember that 40 years may seem like a very long time for each of us individually. 120-something is an inconceivable amount of time. But we as Jews have been around for a whole lot longer, and we are going to be around for a whole lot longer after that. But in the end, none of it matters if we don't see in each other, in ourselves, in our tradition, in our Torah, in our wisdom, in our vision, the things that truly matter to us, the things that define us. And in this congregation, in this community, I can only tell you what a privilege it is to look at and see all of you, and again, to imagine in my mind those watching at home, and to share in these experiences with you. Week in, week out, from this Shabbat to the Shabbat none of us can conceive of. So all of that is simply to say, while I was very proud of my family on Monday, and very proud to be a part of that moment, I'm extremely proud of being part of every moment with all of you. I wish you a Shabbat Shalom, and if I haven't asked for you tonight, give a special hug to the people that are around you, and if you don't recognize a face, go introduce yourself, because in the end of the day, as beautiful as this building is, the people inside of it is what makes it truly special. So, with that, again, I wish you all a Shabbat Shalom. I'll invite us all to rise as we turn to page 586 at the very bottom of the page. Aleinu l'shabeach. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kayoye ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishbechot ha'adama, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Now invite those in mourning, those observing yahrzeit, to please remain standing. Everyone else may be seated at this time. We think first of those who passed in our community in recent months. Bert Bitterman, Morty Schwatzky, Beverly Deshevsky, Sandy Greenwald, Dorothy Klein, Buddy Kossoff, David Lieberman, Norma Polsek, Marvin Schreier, Sandy Slip, Larry Wartor, David Weinstein, Rita Weitzman, and Yael Zerdar. We also mark the yahrzeits that occurred during the last week for Jack Berger, Minyan Fichtelberg, Jewel Gumbel, Irene Hanser, Samuel Hurwitz, Arnold Jacoby, Aaron Knopf, Charlotte Kohlbrenner, Robert Liu, Samuel Lewis, Harriet Roth, Lisa Shaneswit, Sam Siegelwax, Morris Simon, Herman Spitz, Blanche Stiglitz, Samuel Teller, Alexandra Wexler, and Susan Wolfson. In addition to the names that I just read, is anyone saying Kaddish for anyone we did not mention? Like to mention their names? Invite the mourners to join with me on page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael Agala v'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach la'alam u'le'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha brichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav u'yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen.
Amen.
Zichronam livracha, may every one of their memories be for a blessing. Please be seated. And Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Few important announcements. First is to join us for Shabbat services tomorrow at 9:30. Okay, Cantor, we've done a lot of services in a short period of time, and he doesn't look any worse for the wear, which is very impressive. He is young. Youth does help. Youth helps a little bit. Beards help too, I think. So again, join us tomorrow morning. Service is 9:30 here at the temple, or you can watch online as well. And to join us for Torah study as well, which just again for the time being is online only on Zoom, but we'll get back to being able to do that in person most likely next week. I think we have what we'll need, which is very cool. Just a reminder again to everybody, the change of time begins next Shabbat, so 6:30 p.m. for Friday night services, 10 o'clock for Saturday morning services. And again, we'll get back to the hybrid version of Torah study, which will be at 12 o'clock as well. Also, it's not really a reminder because I think we made the decision more recently as to when, but next Shabbat we are going to acknowledge Pride Month with a service of Shabbat dedicated to and conceiving of a celebration of pride and of the people in our community and around the world, of the LGBTQ plus community. And we're really very honored to have one of our board members and a newly ordained rabbi, Rabbi Alan Levin, who will join Cantor Kevin and myself in helping to lead that service. And I believe, Vivian, you're going to do candles for us next week, I believe, which is great. Very nice. Don't be so humble about it. That's very important. Although I think we're going to get you probably a different way of lighting candles that don't melt onto the table. So we'll work on that for next week. Still working some things out. And also just a reminder that same Shabbat, June 3rd, after services, you can join the Social Justice Committee who will be marching in the Pride Parade in East Hampton. You can contact Andy or Alyssa for more information about that as well. Also a reminder, this Sunday, Ruth Joseph's book group will return. It's Sunday, May 28th at 11 o'clock here at the temple, or for those that want to join via Zoom as well. So if you have questions about that, you can contact Ruth directly, or you can ask Shelley if you're with us tonight. She has answers to all of your questions as well. A reminder that this Monday is Memorial Day and therefore the temple is closed. But while we are speaking about Memorial Day, as I have said for many years, this is a holiday that in our country is overlooked is probably an overstatement. The intention of Memorial Day is a day of thoughtfulness and consideration of lives given for our protection, for our freedom, for our safety. In Israel is a day of significant solace, right? Significant moments in which the entire country really comes to a stop. Our tendency here is to barbecue. I'm not going to suggest that you don't barbecue. Barbecuing is a big part of who we are. But in the midst of the weekend, in the midst of the day, make sure that you find time in your schedule to acknowledge what the day is and what it is about. Because us as Jews in particular, we are much a part of that story as anyone else. And we have lost many soldiers in defense of this country going back to the very beginning. So lest we forget, amongst all of the goodness here, right, all the joy of this weekend and being able to be with each other, let's not forget its original purpose and its intention as well. Also, a reminder that Sunday, June 4th, 8 o'clock, there is, we'll tell you more about it next week, but put Sunday, June 4th at 8 o'clock on your calendar for something very special. And also, very important, I think we still have flyers. Do we have the Road Forward flyers at the door? If not, where did I put it? Here it is. Oh, I still have a copy. So we're going to celebrate the Road Forward Scholars, our second year, and we have a number of our leaders in the room tonight, which is wonderful. So join us for cocktails, light bites to benefit the Road Forward Scholarship Fund and to support the dream of higher education for deserving local high school seniors. This takes place Saturday, June 10th from 5 to 7:30 p.m. at the Bridgehampton Community House, including special guest performance by India Eaton and delicious food provided by one of our own, Jason Weiner from Almond Restaurant in Bridgehampton, and a number of other very lovely sponsors. So we thank all of them, and we thank our Road Forward Scholarship team that has been leading us through, and we will celebrate the wonderful young people who we will continue to support in their education and their learning and in changing the world, which is very much what we believe in and we hope for our next generation. So all of those things are very good things to come. And also just a quick word, we have a very wonderful summer planned for you guys. A very wonderful one that is quite packed with a lot of great things. There's a lot to be shared in the coming weeks, but be very excited about all the things that we are going to do together. And a lot of singing, a lot of praying, a lot of learning, and just a lot of wonderful things. And in a couple of weeks' time, a wedding, which is going to be a wonderful thing as well. Early mazel tov to the Gruenstein family and to your wonderful daughter, Jessica, who we are excited to celebrate very, very soon. And just as a last word, and I know they are extremely humble and sitting in the back, I don't want to draw any undue attention, but I want to thank Ambassador Lauder, Mrs. Lauder, for being here tonight and for everything that you have done and do, and that your family has done to help to sustain this community. We thank you for being here tonight and all that you do, and we thank all of you as well. And I hope that at our Oneg, you'll get a chance to talk to each other again, all the things we missed for so many years. That's why I was saying, these are the moments really. And if you're not comfortable with hugging right now, that's fine too, right? Just show each other the love that you all deserve and celebrate these moments with full heart. So with that, Cantor, I think we have something to end with, and then we'll do Kiddush.
Sure. Okay.
Oh, right. Let's do God bless.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Great. So, you want to take it?
Yes.
Great.
Speaking of long-standing traditions, at least in my time, for the Memorial Day service, we actually end our service with God Bless America, which is found in the back of our Cedarim. And for this, we ask that you rise again in body or in spirit. Page
680.
680. 680.
Ready?
We're ready.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
God bless Irving Berlin as well.
Exactly.
Can you see if there's a challah
I can do
available, I think? Josie, is there a challah? Okay, you can grab that. Kiddush is on page 123. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam morei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon inchilanu zikaron lemahaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikraei kodesh zecher letziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim ve'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon inchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen. Chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. Please
Shabbat
come next
shalom.
door, eat, hug, kibbutz. Yeah, no, I heard that too.
So it was me, and I was noticing that, and going, I turned it off and it stopped. I turned it on and I heard it. So I
Yeah,
just
so
turned
no,
it
so that
off
clearly
and
is, yeah, so the question is
I'm
why?
not sure why or what.
We'll
It
find
could
out.
be a battery of mine, because I also have a battery plug for this.
Oh,
That
interesting.
could be dying. So that's
Could
the
be.
first thing I would think of to change.
Well, one thing that we can check is we can plug the lab into that and see if we're getting a
It's
click.
happening when you were speaking. Yeah, I don't know.
All right, we will check
I
on
turned it off
that.
for a while.